Hello and welcome to Across the Pond Aces. We are here, James and Samantha, and it's that time of the year where we start looking towards the playoffs, but we can't quite look at the playoffs just yet. Few things going on, first of all. I've got a few stories to get into, but Samantha, we needed wins to kind of keep that number one seed. We beat the Mystics, and then we went into Seattle, and we managed to beat them. And Asia was awesome.
She was what, player of the month, I wanna say I recently saw. I think it's awesome that we were able to go in, get the win that we should have gotten. We placed a couple bets early, last show. We said, "Are they gonna win?" I think we were right. We've been pretty right every time. Maybe a couple times we were off, but, back in Vegas, so always here.
It was a heck of a game, and I think what we've seen is again Kia Stokes start the game. She did have 11 rebounds in this game. Now that is up massively in terms of production for her. Only 2 points. Could still see a bit more from her. That would be great. But Jackie Young with 22. We had Kelsey Plum with 15, Chelsea Gray with 14, and Alicia Clark. Alicia Clark seems to be like this this phenom off the bench, which just adds something that we just need. Like we just like a burst of energy. Like, she is a high energy player, and we need that. And bringing her in from Seattle has really worked out for us really quite well.
100%. But you know what? That's so important to have like that on the team. So you're not just going through your core five, right? You're able to go through and have when they're getting that rest or when they're sitting down a minute, it's so good for them to like, have a player that can come in and show the world what they can do and get that energy still going.
Uh, it is so important, and sometimes like you don't give benches enough credit.
No.
Like you look at benches and people just look at numbers. Sometimes it's not about the number. Sometimes it's about seeing a player who comes in and changes the game
Yeah.
just with they might not score a bucket load of points, but it's the fact that they've been there. They've maybe made the right pass.
Yeah.
They've maybe got a block or something that is just suddenly, oh, hang on, this is going our way. Let's get into this. I mean, I think the real reason Carly Samuelson got her like season long contract with the Sparks was because of that, because she was coming in.
Yeah.
Some games she was actually starting, but she was coming in off the bench at times, and it was just like that burst of energy.
Hmm.
And then and for her, like getting like regular minutes obviously helped
Oh yeah.
in terms of starting to get a rhythm, start to pick up some points and so forth. And I think Alicia Clark on our side, I think she brings so much to a team
Yeah.
that I think like, you need that sixth person off the bench. Like the sixth person is always
Mhm.
an important one. Who's going to be the game changer? And I think that Alicia does it
Yeah.
for this team. Uh, I would still, I'm still on this train of I would put Kia on the bench. I would move Asia to the five, and I'd actually start Alicia Clark. Like I'm still on that train. One thing we did see is we did see Kayla, we did see Alana and Kirsten Bell, uh, and Sydney Colson, by the way,
Yeah.
all play in this game. And I think that is going to be pivotal as well because they're all pretty good players. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, let's Sydney Colson, um, Caitlin George, Alicia Clark, obviously coming off the bench. Like they are good players,
Yeah.
and Sydney Colson, like she's another player that can change a game, and I
100%.
think it's so important. Now, on the other side, Joe Lloyd did score 28 points, so there is some defensive what do I call 'em, deficits. Now that comes from not having someone like Candace Parker.
Yeah.
But again, Alicia Clark, I would say she's a premier defender. Like, and in this game, Like, why not have her on Joe Lloyd the entire game? I mean, they played together. Like, she will know her inside out. Like, I don't know. I don't like to question Becky because I think she'd kill me. But like at the same at the same time, I'm like, I,
Come on
I
now.
don't. And the thing is, we don't know what happens in the locker room. We don't know why she's making the choices she's making. Like not really playing the bench the first half of the season. And I just, yeah, I still worry that when we go to playoffs, then things aren't great.
I agree with you there. I think we don't know what happens behind the locker, like in the locker room. We don't know what happens behind the scenes. We can see what happens on game day. We can see maybe up to, we can kind of see the bench when the cameras are on, but we don't know why Becky is doing what she's doing. She's obviously got a plan. She knows what she's doing. It's been working. Now going into it, I really think, the biggest thing is the bench, right? Like, are we going to be able to stay consistent with it? Going into the playoffs, it's a whole different animal. Playoff mode is different than regular season mode. It's not, you know, like, oh, we have a couple more games. No, it's in or out kind of thing. So I think that's super important. People in playoff mode, they're not going to behave the same way that they did during the regular season. You see it. They make the tweaks, they want to make the certain changes so that way they can be a better version of themselves, right? No, it doesn't always work. There was things that you might not need to change, and you did. So let's see. But I think with Vegas, like we have our core five, right? We have our and our bench hasn't been playing all that often, as most teams have been utilizing their bench. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we go into the playoffs. I mean, last year we didn't use our bench really either. We had a couple of rookies on the team. We had other players that like we really didn't utilize. So it'll be interesting to see this year. I mean, we're dealing with an injury, right? We have our players that are coming in. Now, do we think we can do it again this year? Let's see, right? I mean, we obviously have high hopes for it. We want them to. We want them to be able to do like a double feature kind of thing. So let's see.
Yeah, the standings at the moment, the Aces are top. We've got Phoenix, a double header against Phoenix coming up now. If we were to win, I think just the first game of that, then I think we pretty much guarantee top spot. Who we would play is kind of another matter. It could either be the Chicago Sky or the Sparks in the first round. So it will be interesting to see who we end up with.
I think if we have Chicago, I think we win. If we have Phoenix, I mean, sorry, if we have the Sparks, I think they might give us a little bit more of a challenge. They've already beat us this year, and but do I think that was a fluke? Maybe.
I don't know if it was a fluke. I think the Sparks they've haven't had an up and down season, to be fair,
Yeah,
and I think for them, what they're looking at is this is kind of a building year for them,
yeah. They got a new
and into
coach.
next year. Yeah, and I think it's been tough for them as well because I think they've had so many people out. Like they started off with what 3, 4 players, like, and 3 of those would have started out, and then you know you've had players come in on like 7-day contracts, hardship
Yeah,
contracts, and all these kind of things. So they've had a lot going on in the background that you kind of have to give them credit
yeah,
for getting this far and actually fighting for a playoff spot. Because when you look at the standings, like eliminated, there's Indiana, which is gutting for me because I think they played wonderfully this year. This year, Seattle. We always knew Seattle were going to have a tough year because they got gutted after Sue Bird left, Brehan Stewart left, Lisa Clark, and then like everyone had high hopes for Phoenix. We all thought they would have this kind of storybook ending for Brittany Griner, and that really hasn't panned out. Their coach got fired. They have another coach in, and
was it injury?
so but again, lots of injuries,
Yeah.
and they're already kind of in off season mode. We're going to go in and play them in a double header. and they're done for the year.
Yeah. Now, if we lose to them, will that be very sad? Yeah. Um, like, will we lose to them? I wanna say we win one, lose one.
So I'm going to say we win both. I think we win both comfortably. I don't think, and I think the second game I don't think is a blowout. I think the first game we probably blow them out, but I think the second game I think is a bit more because it's the last game of the season as well, and I think we wrap up the one seed by that point. So
Okay.
we do have some news on. Like we reported it what feels like about a month ago now. Riquna Williams had 9 domestic abuse charges. She was arrested about 45 minutes ago before we started recording. News came through that all charges have been dropped, and Williams would like to return to the team. Now, it'd be great to have her, without a shadow of a doubt. We need her. Like,
Yeah.
we do need her. And the spark that she can give off the bench, like we were talking with Alicia Clark, Williams can show up at key moments in games
Oh,
and
yeah.
be that sixth person. Imagine we have 2 sixth people. We've got Alicia and then you've got Williams. Well, Sydney Colson, if you wanna argue, you have 3. But the charges that have been dropped are a second string of charges because we didn't know about the first time
Mm,
because that was kinda kept under wraps.
that's true.
The league gave her a suspension, but no one ever announced it as a suspension. So the question is domestic abuse across sports is highlighted. I mean, you see, I think there's a guy in baseball just now. He's looking at like a 100 game ban or something.
Yeah.
He's got coming, and that's even like even if those charges get dropped, the league don't care. The league will say, "Well, actually, no, you've had these charges, so we're instantly going to ban you for like 80 games or something." And then the NFL, you know, it's taken them a long time to get on board with this,
Yeah.
and I still don't think they're 100% on board, but they have started, suspensions. The NBA do it. Should Williams be allowed back in the team?
I think that's such a tough question because not only was before this, she was dealing with an injury too, right? So she was, she was already on the bench because she was dealing with an injury. And like it's not her fault that she was had an injury, but now like this, like I think it's such a slippery slope, right? Because if we were in regular season and we weren't even thinking about going to the playoffs, would the team have brought her back? Why not? Now are we in playoffs and and our players injured? Like I think if Candace was in, would we say let's bring her back and let's have it? I don't know. I think this is one of those topics that like there's never going to be a right answer, right? Because it's always going to be one of those issues that like it's for example, you know, who knows what really would happen, right? We weren't there. We're hearing from what the media is telling us, but her charges were dropped. Now, does that mean nothing happened? No. It just means that the charges were dropped. So I think it's really such a slippery slope we'd go down, right? With her coming back, then it's like, well, do we just forget about the news? We don't forget about something like that, even though her charges were dropped. So I'm auto drafting on this one.
So I think it's very difficult. We've seen in the UK recently, there was a soccer player for Manchester United, Mason Greenwood, whose girlfriend had him arrested, had him charged with a bunch of abuse charges. There was a slew of them,
Mhm.
all different ones, and she she dropped the charges right before he was supposed to go to court and stand trial. She dropped the charges, and Manchester United, they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. They took so long to decide what to do with them that they ended up looking a little bit stupid and like with real egg on their face, like in the media in the UK. are absolutely tearing them to shreds. Now, they ended up selling them, just got rid of him. In fact, I don't even think they sold him. I think they just released him from his contract and said,
Yeah.
"Right, on your way." Now, that is someone who has had charges dropped, and he's still with the same person. Like they're still together. They're expecting a child now together, which is why people think that the charges are dropped because they're now expecting a kid, and she obviously doesn't want him to go to prison
No.
um, while they're having a kid. But again, that doesn't mean that those events that he was originally arrested for did not happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, the club obviously they had suspended him, like he was on suspension, and then they brought him back to train only, and then obviously they then release him. Now, any club, any soccer club that picks him up will now be tainted with, you've picked up Mason Greenwood. We've seen it happen in the UK before. Chad Evans, he was accused of rape, and then he was like acquitted, they call it over here.
Yeah, we use
So
that here
he
too.
so he was sent to prison, he was found guilty, and then later on acquitted, and he went to play for a club, and the women of that club walked out. And it was the female fans at Manchester United on this occasion that have spoke out and said, "If he stays at the club, we're walking. We'll go and get tickets at Manchester City." And they said that, like, a couple of them said that, "Manchester City, your arch rivals, like, we will go and get tickets at Manchester City." And taking this back to Vegas, I think things are handled differently in the US when it
Yeah.
comes to this kinda thing, and I think sports stars are given not leniency, but I think there's recency bias, and I think it's, "Oh, well, that happened, like, 3 months ago, so" and, you know, charges were dropped, so everything's fine, let's just move on and everyone be happy.
Yeah.
I am interested to see if the league, although Williams has said she wants to come back and play, I'm interested to see if it's either the league or it's the team that
Mhm.
say, "Well, actually, you're gonna have to serve a suspension because you had these charges."
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. I think you like you said, um, when it comes to stuff that happens here in the US, you hear it's when it's recent, right? And then people kind of forget about it a little bit. There's obviously major stuff that you hear about. For example, everybody still talks to this day about Michael Vick and what he did, right? There's obviously certain things that are still top of mind. But her, like, I think people obviously, you're gonna have a big majority of people that will remember this and always be like, "Oh, she did that." Like, and even when if she faces a suspension, right? Like, after that, it's kind of like, well, does Vegas wanna keep her, right? Does Vegas wanna still have her under figure out what to do or trade her or release her? Like, I think that's such an important thing that they have to determine because it's kinda looking at it as business. Do you wanna affect your pockets? Because for a player who didn't even do anything this season.
That's it. I mean, she was injured. Nothing you can do about that. And then when she was available, she wasn't available because she has charges and against her, and you cannot play when you have charges against you. So I think I think you're right. I think that there really is no right answer.
No.
I think you have to think of the victim
Yeah, of course.
first of all, and think, well, hang on, like how's the victim gonna feel seeing this person on TV playing sports, earning millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's the WNBA, so it's not millions of dollars, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like how did they gonna feel? Now, I believe that they're still together,
Yeah.
and so you maybe look at that. But like you say, I don't think there's a right. I do have this line, whereas if there's domestic abuse and you're found guilty, I genuinely believe they should never play in professional sports ever again. They shouldn't be allowed to. But I think there's such a grey line when it comes to when charges are dropped, and you know, it's is it even right that a league should suspend someone if charges are dropped? Because it's not even went to trial. Like,
Yeah.
if it goes to trial, you get found not guilty, then fair enough.
Okay.
If or if it's guilty, then yeah, you're out of professional sports. That's just the stance I've always taken, though.
I feel you on that. I think that's so important that truth be told, I mean, like you said, if they were found guilty, obviously this wouldn't even be a conversation we'd be having about them returning. If they went to trial and found not guilty, okay, but charges were dropped, so that doesn't always mean that they didn't do it. It just means the charges were dropped. So, again, we obviously don't ever want to wish anything bad on anybody. We want them to, she's a probably a wonderful person, great player as well, and like you said, thinking about it from the victim as well, we don't want to see them being rewarded for something like this. And who knows what really happened between them two, right? We weren't there. We can't say, she was wrong, she was wrong. Like, no, we have to think about it like, okay, like we don't know. And the judicial system, the US is not always great, but you know,
Wow. Yeah, not always great. That's a loose term, huh? Uh, um, moving on, to this weekend, we have a doubleheader Saturday and Sunday up against the Phoenix Mercury. One game at home, one game away, which is kinda nice because obviously Phoenix really is just down the road.
yeah,
Like, was it, like a 4-hour drive? So it's a nice drive as well, by the way. I did it for the Super Bowl, in February, and it was lovely. Probably because it wasn't, like, stinking hot like it is right now. But it was still, like, 70s, by the way. But I I kinda like finishing on this doubleheader.
yeah.
If I'm honest, it's not the doubleheader I thought it was gonna be. Like, I thought this would be Phoenix, like, like, challenging us, challenging the Liberty for top spot. Like, I thought there was gonna be 3 teams this year. I thought there was gonna be us, thought there was gonna be Liberty, and I thought there was gonna be Phoenix. So I'm kinda disappointed as well at the same time because I thought these games probably would have had a lot more meaning. I think they still do because we still want the number 1 seed, but we go into these 2 games after winning against the Mystics, after winning against Seattle pretty well. Um, could these games be nice momentum boosters for going into the playoffs?
Hmm. I don't think they will be, to be really honest with you, because I feel like they're not gonna feel challenged, right? Phoenix has already been knocked off. So for them, they're like one day closer to the off season, right? I mean, not that they're thinking that way, but come on now. They're thinking that way. I think this will be interesting for them. Will they feel good after these wins? Yeah. But are they gonna really feel good about these wins? Probably not. They're not gonna feel challenged. Now, I mean, a win is a win, right? So, you feel good after that win. You go in knowing, "All right, we just won these last 2. We're gonna go now and we're gonna prepare for the playoffs." So, I think that'll be interesting to see.
I think it'll be fun. I think these games will be entertaining more
Yeah.
than anything else. Like,
Yeah.
I don't we still do need the number 1 seed, so we kinda need to we want a home court advantage all the way to the finals. We
Yeah.
need to make sure we're winning, so hopefully we can come away with the 2 wins, but I look at it and I kinda feel bad because I feel bad for Dan Taurasi, Brittany Griner, both had long careers. Brittany's obviously come back from Russia to play this season, which has been nice. It's been nice to see her
Oh, yeah.
back, for sure, but I really wanna see us win both and take those wins into the playoffs. Who we get in the playoffs, you know, could be interesting to work that one out after this weekend. But one thing's for sure, like this playoffs is going to be very unpredictable because
Oh, yeah.
we've seen teams knock off the Liberty, we've seen teams knock off us. Sparks did it earlier in the season, so
Oh, yeah.
and I think you're right. Like I think if we get Chicago, no offense to Chicago, but I think we kind of beat them. Whereas if we get the Sparks, I do think like the Sparks can turn up,
Yeah.
and if they get in a shooting rhythm, then I think they can
Now
really,
was that a play on it being a spark, them shooting
yeah,
up?
Yeah. I know, it's terrible, it's a dad joke. But I think the Sparks give us a game, they give us a real challenge,
Yep,
and that could be a worry. But then, when you lose someone like Candace Parker and you have and again, I feel bad for Kia Stokes having to be in this position, but again, I just if we do bring back Williams, I mean, does that change the lineup? Does that push Alicia Clark
that'd be
into
interesting.
the starting lineup?
That would definitely be interesting to see. She hasn't been with the team all year, so like they've kind of started to get more in their rhythm. And now to like introduce something new, it doesn't isn't always bad. We have been talking about what could be missing, but to start over again would kind of be like, hmm,
Yeah, that's the other aspect of that I never really like I thought of, but I hadn't really kind of put two and two together. Like, you know, she's not going to be game ready, Williams.
no,
So, like, to jump straight into playoffs, that could be. I mean, don't get me wrong, she could jump straight into this game on Saturday.
yeah.
In all fairness, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now, we will be back next week, and next week we will know all about the playoffs, who we've got, and everything. Because I think they start the weekend after. So, um, I'm looking forward to playoffs this year. I think it's going to be tight. I still think we make the finals at a
Oh,
minimum, uh, but I do wonder who we end up against. That like when we see that final playoff bracket, like I can't wait to talk about that because I think that's going to be fun. Because if we get the Sun or like if we get one of these kind of tougher teams after the first round,
I have a feeling we're playing the Liberty in the end. Like,
oh yeah, I this is the thing. Like the Sun, Alyssa Thomas, like I just they have a chip on their shoulder. It's the oh we're here too chip. Like yeah, we're in the same kind of area as New York.
three, like,
Yeah, so I kind of feel like they have that kind of chip on their shoulder, and they might wanna make a statement against the New York Liberty, and
yeah,
if there's any team that could do it, I think it'd be the Sun.
yeah. They're the sleeper that we're not even thinking about.
Nope. So, hopefully it's, Chicago for us round 1, but everyone enjoy this week's games or this weekend's games against, the Mercury. I think like I say, I think they'll be entertaining. I think they'll
Yeah.
be enjoyable to watch. I think they're both on at UK friendly times as well, which is even better. Makes a
They
change.
will be past my bedtime, but,
They can't be past your bedtime.
actually, I will have to check if they're what time they're on the Pacific Coast, so let's see.
That is true. I mean, if they're both on that side, then oh geez, 3 a.m. Yeah, I'm not gonna be staying up for that one.
Mm.
3 a.m. on Saturday and 8 p.m. UK time on
Oh,
Sunday.
okay.
So Sunday's not so bad. So I think for you that's probably about 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that one I'll definitely be awake for, but it is also the start of football season, so
This is the things we have to balance, Samantha. We have to
oh,
balance our sports.
my
And
fantasy football team will definitely, be needing some attention week 1, so
well, if you got Kyler Murray, it sure does. Anyways, and on that bombshell, we will get out and we will see you all very soon.
have a good one, everyone.